All right, guys, the other day, my barrel plugged up with pellets. Basically, I shot one, it obstructed the barrel. Me not investigating soon enough, I kept firing, nothing was coming out. I'm like, what the heck? So I looked down there and I seen I had a whole bunch of pellets. Well, I decided to try to force the pellets out of the barrel, and this little piece here that you see here in red broke. So then the barrel would move inside the gun. This would actually move into the mag well. So I was going to throw the gun away, but then the wife said, well, you print 3D printed airgun parts as part of your living. Why don't you fix it? So I went ahead and did. So I made a new part. I had to do a little bit of modifications to it. Since it's a one-time thing, I figured it was easier just for me to kind of cut away at it instead of redraw the model and print it again. I don't think there's a market for this piece here. But this is a Umarex Walther PPQ. And while I had it apart, I thought I might show some things you can do to make the trigger lighter, maybe to increase the feet per second, anything that you might want to do if you had one of these. There's not a lot, but there is a little. This is the gun obviously taken all the way apart. This is your trigger assembly. This here is your hammer. And you can see here as you run that back, that catches, and when the gun fires, of course I do that. When the gun fires, the trigger, let's see here, this trigger bar goes here into the trigger, and it comes back here, and when you pull the trigger, I'll just take this out for now. When you pull the trigger, it will pull this out of those stops. So one thing you can do is polish the top of this and polish those surfaces that it sits on. That'll help smoothen the trigger up a little bit. The other thing you can do, you can pull this spring here, and yeah, you could find some lighter springs, or you can just grab it, pull it out of there, and grab each little tail with some pliers and bend them till you weaken the spring. Another thing you can do is to increase your hammer strength. You can take this spring out and you can do the opposite to it, to some degree. You got to remember, if you do that, it's going to be harder for the slide to come back and reset everything, reset the hammer. So keep that in mind. You can only go so far with that. There's some things we can do in the mag, and I might show that in a later video. For now, we'll just continue on with this. So we will throw this on top of here. Obviously, this would be in there, but for the simplicity of the video, we will just throw our barrel on. We will set this on here, and your trigger bar will go from here to here. So when you pull this trigger, you can see how that moves. So something else you can do, not only polishing the surfaces on those and on top of this, you could polish the backside of this and all of these surfaces that this rubs on. Polish them up, get them super clean, and then maybe lube them up. That's going to help your trigger pull on this gun and make it much better. Then the other thing I'm probably going to do, this is your recoil spring. I'm probably going to try some different weights or lightening this up a little bit. I want the slide to return once it fires, but I also want it to actuate easier. And so I think there's a little bit of tuning room with this that you can play with. Again, you're going to do this all at your own risk. This gun broke. I was going to throw it away, so I am going ahead and going to play with it just for the sake of science or boredom, I guess. There is a spring in here. I don't have the slightest inclination of what it does. It actually goes here. And I have no idea what it does or what its purpose is. I will put it back in there because it was in there, but I really don't have a clue what that spring does. But those are the biggest things you can do, is you can lighten this spring up. You can polish those surfaces on the hammer. You can polish this side of the case where this trigger bar, so to speak, rides. Anywhere you have friction, if you can smooth that up and minimize friction, you're going to make the trigger pull much better. One thing is probably not going to do a lot, but the culmination of polishing those up will get you a nice clean, crisp break. Polishing this up, polishing that bar up, and making this spring a little bit lighter is just all in all going to make this a much finer experience. Again, do it at your own risk. Once I get this back together, I will show you what you can do in the mag. We will pull this out and I will show you how this valve works and some backyard mechanic ways that you can make this valve open a little easier. It's not that bad, but open a little bit easier and possibly let a little bit more air out. At a certain point, you're going to have problems with the valve leaking, as well as you're going to be putting so much air through it that you're wasting it. The barrel's only so long, so you can only use so much air before the pellet's long gone and you're just blowing air out behind it. These things are actually incredibly accurate in stock form. So yeah, like I said, you can kind of play with it, but we'll get to the mag later. For now, I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this, and we'll be back when I'm done doing that.